So what it represents, the a minus b belongs to I. It represents, it's nothing but I is an abelian subgroup or simply subgroup with respect to the corresponding binary. That is with respect to addition, exactly addition, with respect to addition. Then the second condition, if you choose any element from your subset, then any element in your ring, then the product must belongs to the subset. If these two conditions are satisfied, then we say that the subset of a ring become ideal. The important thing is an ideal is a subring, but converse need not be true. An ideal, every ideal is a subring, but every subring need not be an ideal. The best example, z comma plus comma dot is a subring of q comma plus comma dot, but this is z comma plus comma dot is not a ideal of q comma plus comma dot. So because this, I want to say that z comma plus comma dot is an ideal, that means I can pick one number from z, say 9, then pick one element from q, say 1 by 2, then the product must be, that is the product is 9 by 2 does not belong to your q. So obviously ideal condition fails. The set of all even integer as an ideal of the ring z comma plus comma dot. So not only this, multiples of 3, multiples of 4, multiples of 5, all are is an ideal of the ring z comma plus comma dot. Then we seen that one example, that is A is an 2 by 2 special case of matrices. That means in 1 2 place always 0, the remaining entries are belongs to set of all integers. This subset of a ring, this is a subset of the ring M2 of Z. That means set of all 2 by 2 matrices whose entries belongs to set of all integers. And I have to prove that A is a subring but not an ideal. So I want to say that it's a subring means I have to take two binary operation. Not only two binary operation, no need to check the associative because always associative is satisfied. If it is a ring means the subset also satisfies the associative axiom, as well as if it is commutative axiom satisfied by the ring, definitely the subset also satisfies the commutative. Okay, here we know that only the given is ring, so we don't know about the commutative axiom, so leave it. So I have to check closer with respect to addition, closer with respect to multiplication, identity with respect to addition, inverse with respect to inverse element with respect to addition. I have to check these conditions. So first condition, I have to check the addition of two matrices, the multiplication of two matrices. You know what is the procedure for adding two matrices, what is the procedure for multiplication of two matrices. When you observe the resultant, it clearly belongs to A because the 1 2 element is 0, the remaining all are belongs to Z. So closer axiom satisfied. Then always identity axiom 0 0 0 0, this identity element always belongs here because the condition is 1 2 place should be 0, remaining place there is no restriction. So if you put all the elements are 0, definitely that element belongs to A. How do you find the inverse of A? This is an element A0 BC. So minus A means put minus symbol, minus A0 minus BC. When you add it, definitely you will get the identity element. So inverse element is exists, therefore subring. But this is not an ideal. For proving not an ideal, you have to choose the appropriate example. So you know that this is belongs to A 1 0 1 1. So here if you can choose another number, but if it is a 1, easy for us. But you have to choose the appropriate matrices, say the appropriate matrices which just belongs to M2 of uses such that the resultant does not belongs to you. That means the resultant, the 1 2 place of resultant matrices is a non-zero element. If it is, if you get like this, definitely that element does not belongs to you. For that, 1 2 place means first row and second column, the multiplication of first row and second column. That means here I put some 1. So 1 into 1, 1, 0 into 1, 0, 1 plus 0, 1. So definitely I will get the element which is does not belongs to A. So if you choose an element A, if you choose an element in your ring, then multiplication should belongs to the subset. Okay, this is not possible, therefore A is not an ideal. This is one important theorem. Once I recall you this theorem, Zn is a field if and only is n is a prime. So first I assume Zn is a field, then I am going to prove n is a prime. Then I assume n is a prime, then I am going to prove Zn is a field. Maybe yesterday you may get little bit confusion. Today once again I will recall. Definitely you can easily understand. Because it is important theorem, so only once again I repeat you. First case I assume Zn is a field. I have to prove n is a prime. So I assume Zn is a field. I have to prove n is a prime. For contrary, I assume that n is a not a prime. Assume n is a not a prime. So which contradiction you have to get it? I assume Zn is a field. Suppose if you assume n is a not a prime, finally you can prove that is a not a field. Definitely we have a contradiction. From that contradiction, I can assume that n is a prime. Okay. If you assume n is not a prime, I want to get the contradiction. Which is your contradiction? Because initially itself I assume that Zn is a field. So if you assume n is not a prime, suppose I get Zn is not a field. This is contradiction to our assumption. So n is a prime. This is an ultimate idea. Okay. Okay. N is not a prime. That means n can be factored into at least two elements by two elements. So n equal to n1 plus n1 into n2, where the range of n1 and n2 is between 1 and n. Okay. So easily I can assume that non-zero n1, non-zero n2, but the product is 0 because n is not a prime. Easily you can check it. So if I choose n is 6, I can factorize into 3 into 2. Okay. So this is non-zero, this is non-zero. Okay. When you multiply, this is 6, but in Z6, addition multiplication modulo 6, this is non-zero element, this is non-zero element. When you multiply, you will get 6. In Z6, 6 is nothing but 0 class. So 6 is nothing but 0 class. Because when you divide 6 by 6, the remainder is 0. So if you choose two non-zero element, the product must be 0 when n is not a prime. Okay. If this condition satisfied, definitely it is not an internal domain. Internal domain means the product is 0. Definitely any one of the element any one of the element 0. But here both the elements are non-zero. Definitely this violates the condition of internal domain. Therefore, Zn is not an internal domain. Zn is not an internal domain. Definitely Zn not a field, because we studied one theorem. Every field is an internal domain. Every finite internal domain is a every finite internal domain is a field. Okay. Every field is an internal domain. That means once internal domain fails, we cannot say that that is an field. Okay. Once suppose every field is an internal domain. So field means definitely I have to say that that is an internal domain. But here by the condition I get Zn is not an internal domain. So Zn is not an internal domain. Definitely Zn not a field. Okay. Zn not a field. So therefore this is contradiction to that. Zn is a field. Zn is a field. So this contradiction, why we get, we assume n is not a prime, so only we get the contradiction. Therefore n is an prime. Conversely, now I assume n is an prime, I have to prove that Zn is a field. Zn is a field means if you choose any element in Z, there is an multiplicity inverse exists. In other words, if you choose any element in Zn, it's an unit. Okay. So in unit 3 already we studied that suppose A into B, say A into B, which is congruent to 1 mod something, means if you get like this, some mod value. If you get like this, B is an inverse element of multiplicative inverse of A is a multiplicative inverse of B. We can easily say that. So my ultimate aim is I get this expression. Okay. So n is prime. So choose an element between 0 to n. Then GCD of A comma n is 1. So obviously n is prime means there is no devices. So if we choose an element lies between 0 to n, definitely the GCD of A comma n is 1. So by number easily you can check it. Choose any prime 7. Okay. Lies between, you can choose any number because 7 has no factor. So definitely the less than number, when you find the GCD with less than n as well as n, definitely it's become 1. We studied one theorem in unit 3. GCD of A and n, that is GCD of two numbers, can be expressed as the linear combination of themselves. That means the GCD value 1 can be represented as a linear combination of A and n. So for that I have to write. So there exists an integer s and t, as plus tn equal to 1. Just rearrange as minus 1 equal to minus t and tn. This is nothing but c. Suppose a divides b. That means suppose 2 divides 6. That means what I can write? 6 is equal to 3 times of 2. Okay. So a divides means I can write b is equal to some multiples of a. B is equal to some multiples of a. So here I get this is equal to some multiples of n. So definitely n divides a is minus 1. If it is n divides a minus 1, I can write a is congruent to 1 mod n. We know the definition, a congruent to b mod n means n divides a minus b. The same thing, n divides a is minus 1 means a is congruent to 1 mod s. That means a is an unit of z, and because the s is an inverse element of a is an inverse element of s, therefore a is an unit element. We arbitrarily choose an element, so definitely it's a is an arbitrary, so each and every element has inverse element. Therefore, Zn is an field. If you choose any element in Zn, that is a unit. Definitely, that is an field. Important theorem. After that, we see in the small theorem the same thing. This is an important problem. Just find the GCD by applying Euclidean algorithm. Then start with this 1 equal to 22 minus 7 into 3. Then replace 3 by 25 minus 22. Then replace 22 by 72 minus 2 into 25. Finally, we get this expression. After I get this expression, that means in this problem you have the number 25 and 72. Wherever you get the 25 and 72, in that place you have to apply mod 72. If you apply mod 72, this has become 0. Finally, I got 1 is equal to minus 23 into 25 mod 73. Here I have 23. Okay. So I need the positive numbers. So how do you get convert minus 23 into positive? Just add with modulo value. That is add with 72. You will get 49. So 1 is equal to, or 1 is congruent to 49 into 25. That means the inverse of 25 is 49. Inverse of 49 is 25. The question is itself they asking inverse of 25. Therefore, so inverse of 25 is nothing but 49. Okay. Simple way, this is an important problem. Similar 100 inverse. Then 777 inverse a little bit longest procedure, so do it yourself and then you can conclude that the inverse of 777 is nothing but 735. Then we seen important topic, ring homomorphism. Okay, before I enter into this topic, I want to show something. So please see my another device. Please wait. did you see my some slide? There is a empty page. Anyone reply me? My voice is audible. Anyone reply me?
Sir, audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay, in first class itself, why we have to study group? Okay, in that case, I gave one example. Say x plus 5 equal to 2 or something. Okay, in that case, we have to suppose you want to solve one equation by the by computer. You have to teach each and everything so that we have to study the axioms of group. Okay, this is correct. In the first class, I show that once again I will show that example. Say. X plus 5 is equal to 2. So how do you get this value? First I have to observe the value in the left hand side. So for that value you have to find the additive inverse, then apply additive inverse on both sides. So that is x plus 5 then plus minus 5, which is equal to 2 plus minus 5. 2 plus minus 5. Okay. Then after that by left hand side, so if you know the inverse axiom, then only I can able to find the inverse element of 5 with respect to addition. Okay, so you have to teach to your computer. So after applying, so I have to, if you know the associated axiom, then only I can change the bracket. So x plus 5 times of, that is I can change the bracket. This is nothing but associated axiom. Here simply I can write 2 plus minus 5. Okay. So if you know the inverse axiom, so element then inverse element, when you apply addition, so it's become an identity element, say 0, x plus 0, which is equal to, right hand side apply the inverse axiom, say 2 minus 5 is minus 3. So again, if you know the identity axiom, so any element with identity elements become the same element. Okay, then finally we get x equal to minus 3. In this problem, with respect to addition, I need closure, I need associative, I need identity, I need inverse. Then only easily I can solve this problem. Okay, so this is application of group theory. Then, so what is the application of ring theory? Okay, a ring means under addition abelian, under multiplication semi, then distributive law. Suppose if we have minus x plus 5 is equal to 2. The same previous problem. Instead of x, I choose minus x. That means in that case you need ring theory. In that case you need ring theory. How is it possible? I will explain. The same way, just I can add minus 5 on both sides. So for inverse axiom, then if you add it, you will get 0. That is identity. That is again inverse axiom. So right hand side closer. Finally, what do you get? Minus x plus 0, which is equal to 2 minus 5. So again identity axiom. So again identity axiom, what do you get? Minus x equal to minus 3. But here I have to multiply with minus 1, not by the symbol. So you simply can say my cancel minus both sides. That is not possible. So I can say that I can multiply minus 1 on both sides. Here multiplication operation also needed. Then only we can able to solve this type of equation. But under multiplication, closer is enough. No need to other cases. Okay, closer. Here associative, they didn't apply associative case. Okay, no problem. So at least you can understood that for solving this equation, I need ring theory. Because under addition, all the 4 axiom needed. Under multiplication, I need the closer axiom. So if you multiply minus 1 on both sides, if under multiplication this axiom satisfies, then only I can say that minus 1 into minus x is become x. Here minus 3 into minus 3 into minus 1 is become plus. So x equal to 3. This is an application of ring theory. Okay, sir, where we need a field, I will show another example. Suppose same example. 2x plus 5 which is equal to 2. How do you solve this example? Okay, I start with similar way. Okay, what do you mean by fill? Under addition form a group, under multiplication also form a group. For non-zero element under multiplication form a group. Okay. For this, say similar way, just 2x plus 5, then add with minus 5. So here 2 add with minus 5. So again, by associative axiom, I can write 5 plus minus 5, which is equal to 2 minus 5. Okay. Then 2x plus 0, which is equal to minus 3. 2x equal to minus 3. It's the same similar way. Here inverse axiom, here identity axiom, and so on. Okay, what is the next step? Anyone reply me? What is the next step? Up to this group axiom is enough. Up to this group axiom is enough. What is the next step? Which axiom is needed for the next step? Suppose solving the suppose I want to proceed the next equation or next step. Which axiom I needed? Please, anyone reply me. Exactly correct. If you know
Multiplicative
the
inverse.
multiplicative inverse, then only I can able to solve this. For solving this type of equation, I need field theory. So I have to find the number that is coefficient of x. After that, find the multiplicative inverse. So the multiplicative inverse is nothing but 1 by 2 under multiplication. So I can multiply it by 1 by 2 on both sides. Okay. 1 by 2. Okay. So here again under for this for my inverse under multiplication, if you know the inverse axiom, then only I can apply half into 2 is equal to 1. Okay, then if you know the identity axiom in under multiplication, then only I can write 1 into x equal to x. Okay, if you know the if you know the inverse axiom, then only I can write 1 by 2 into 2 is equal to 1. If you know the identity axiom under multiplication, then only I can write 1 into x equal to x. So which is equal to here, see, listen, here I need the closer axiom with respect to multiplication. So here what you get, minus 3 by 2. So finally I have minus 3 by 2. Suppose you want to solve this problem, you need the field theory. This is the simplest example of why we need group theory, why we need ring theory, why we need field theory. Suppose you want to solve one such type of equation, so you have to teach, you need the collection of some axioms or collection of some operations. So then only you can able to solve this type of equation. So you suppose you want to teach to your computer. So here for this problem, I need it's enough group theory is enough. For this problem, ring theory is enough. For this problem, the field theory is enough. You may think that, see, because some problem cannot solve by because see in group theory we have only one binary, but when you apply ring theory, we need two binary operation. Okay, suppose first example is I can solve by only by group theory, not by ring theory, because when you apply ring theory, you need two operations, that is addition and multiplication. Suppose you want to solve one equation with respect to two binary, that is not, in that case you try for ring theory. Okay, so the second operation closer is enough. In that case, go for ring theory. Suppose for second binary, you need identity inverse. In that case, you have to go for field theory. Okay. So did you understand what I said? At least something you can learn. So about group theory, about ring theory, about field theory. Okay. Just now I stop it and I go for my slide. Okay. So last class we seen that ring homomorphism. So ring homomorphism means between two rings there exists a homomorphism. In previous case, between the groups there is an homomorphism called group homomorphism. Here there are two rings. Between two rings there is an homomorphism. It's called ring homomorphism. In group theory we have only one condition, that is f of a star b is equal to f of a star f of b. But here we have two binaries, so f of a plus b is equal to f of a plus f of b. F of a dot b is equal to f of a dot f of b. So keep in your mind, left hand side in between a and b, there is an operation in first string. Okay, that is addition and multiplication. The right hand side is nothing but operation in the second string. That is, this is a domain, this is a codomain. We've seen some examples. Okay, just go through it. This is an important theorem. This is an important theorem. Okay. Okay, what is the theorem statement? Just I take the pointer. If a function f r comma plus comma dot to s comma plus comma dot is a ring homomorphism, then f of er equal to s. That means identity element in ring, first string, that is nothing but identity element in the first string means obviously with respect to addition. Keep in your mind, obviously with respect to addition. So ES means the identity element with respect to again addition, that is in this operation. So this is nothing but identity element with respect to this operation. This is nothing but identity with respect to this operation. Okay. That means in ring homomorphism, additive identity map onto additive identity. Then the similar f of minus a equal to minus into f of a, f of n is equal to n into f of a power n equal to f of a whole power n. Then a is an subring of r. It follows that f of a is an subring of s. Okay. So quickly we can recall it. First I have to show that f of er is equal to es. I start with es. Es is an identity in s. So what are the elements of s? My elements of s is nothing but f of elements of r. F of elements of r is nothing but yes. Say suppose a belongs to r means f of a belongs to yes. Keep in your mind the image of a belongs to yes. Okay. So e power s es belongs to s means f of er definitely belongs to s. Just add these two. So this is an identity in s. So if you apply the binary with any element in s, you will get that element. Okay, so es plus f of es is nothing but f of er. So er is an identity in R. So I can write er is equal to er plus er. So identity 0 plus 0 is 0. So er plus er equal to er. Okay. So we know that f is an homomorphism. So I can split like this because in with respect to addition we have a what is our operation? F of a plus f of b. So here f of er plus er is equal to f of er plus this operation yes, this operation r, f of er. Okay. So finally what we shown that es plus f of er, f of er plus f of er by right cancellation law, f of er cancel. Finally we get es equal to f of er. The similar proof what we learned in the group theory. Next, f of minus a equal to minus f of a. Further I choose es equal to f of er, the previous result. So er is nothing but additive identity element in R. So I can read it by an element with the additive inverse element. Definitely it's become an identity. Apply the homo f of a plus f of minus a. Finally, what we get es equal to f of a plus f of minus a. If you shown like this, es is an identity element in s, an element in s, the other element in s, and apply the corresponding binary, you will get the identity in that ring. So definitely one is an inverse of another. That means f of minus a is an inverse of f of a. So I can rewrite f of minus a is equal to minus f of a. That is f of a is an additive inverse of f of minus a. Additive inverse means just replace that element. So before that element you simply put minus sign. That is the inverse of f of minus a is nothing but minus f of a. Okay. The next one, f of n a equal to n into f of a. If n is 0, the result is clearly true. Okay, there is no problem. Okay, 0 and anything is 0. 0 is nothing but identity in R. So f of E are equal to ES. E is nothing but n into identity in f of A. Okay, so 0, I can easily write 0 into ES. So n is 0, the result is true. N is 1, also the result is true. So just verify yourself. Okay. Now I assume that this true for n is greater than or equal to 1. That is, we have to assume them less than k, less than or equal to k. That's all. Now we have to examine the case n equal to k plus 1. So apply f of k plus 1 by induction method. I am going to prove f of k plus 1 into a is equal to, I can read f of k plus a by f is an homomorphism. So I can split like this. Again, f is an homomorphism. I can read this in previous case. F of k is equal to k into f of a. So here I have f of a, just this is binary. So here a, here 1. So easily I can write k plus 1 into f of a. Okay. So n is greater than 0. That means f of minus n is equal to minus n into f of a. For that I choose f of minus a plus f of na. So I can rewrite this n into minus a. I can keep n outside. So I take it at common. So f of minus a plus f of a. This is nothing but identity element in S. So n into S equal to S. So theorem is true. So this is go through yourself. This is also you can go through yourself. Is the easiest one. Sorry. The last one, this is an important thing. That is, if we choose a subring in R, the image of the subring is also a subring of S. I have to show that choose subring in R, the image of subring say f of A, that is also subring in S. I have to prove like this. Since A is non-zero, non-empty, so f of A also non-empty. If you choose two element in f of A, that is two element in S, what is the form? That is the image of some element in A, image of some element in B. So if you choose two element in S, there is nothing but image of two element in A. So I assume that x and y belongs to your S. So in S I have a binary plus. There is some special binary. So that means instead of f of S, x I can write f of A. Instead of y I can write f of B. We know that f is an homomorphism. I can write this is as f of A plus B. Okay. Then under multiplication. So x is nothing but f of A, y is nothing but f of B. Here I can put dot with a circle. Then by homomorphism definition f of AB. So x plus y, if you choose two elements from f of A, with respect to addition, with respect to multiplication, both are belongs to f of A. So closer under addition, closer under multiplication, I prove it. Okay. After that, I have to check inverse and identity. If you choose any element in your S, say f of A, not as I am going to prove image of a subring is a subring. So only I choose two element in your image of your subring. Okay. Any element in your yes, the form is image of some element in A. So if you choose f belongs to fa, yes, x and y belongs to fa, then x equal to the image of A, y equal to image of B. Okay. So here if you choose any element in your image of the subring, it's a form of some image of an element in A. So x equal to f of A for some A belongs to x. So we have f of minus A equal to minus f of A. Just now we seen that. That means f of minus A is nothing but minus x because of my assumption. And because minus A belongs to A, with respect to multiplication, definitely it's a ring. So only minus A also belongs to A. So thus we have minus x belongs to f of A. So what I conclude like this, see listen, we know that f of minus A equal to minus f of A. Okay. So by assumption I assume that the element x. Okay. So minus f of A is, I can write it minus into x. And minus A belongs to A, because we know that A belongs to A means A is a subring. So under multiplication, definitely it's satisfied. So minus A also belongs to A, because closer under multiplication. So minus A belongs to A means that is minus x. That is minus x is nothing but inverse of f of A in S. Additive inverse. That is also belongs to f of A. So finally, I assume, finally I show that if we choose any element in f of A, that the inverse, additive inverse also belongs to f of A. Therefore, f of A is in subring. So for subring, we need two conditions: closure and inverse. It's enough. For subgroup, you need closure and inverse. Both are enough. For group, closure and inverse, but ring, closure with respect to addition, closure with respect to multiplication, then inverse with respect to addition. These three conditions enough. Finally, I prove that f of A is a subring. This is another theorem. So in the theorem, I have to show that the multiplicative identity is an unique. That means R is a multiplicative identity in UR is a multiplicative identity in R, then f of UR is a multiplicative identity in S. Okay. Suppose UR is an identity element in R, A is an unit element in R, f of A is unit element in S. A is a unit element R, f of A is unit element in S. R is an commutative, then S is also commutative. R is commutative, then S is also a commutative. I is an ideal, then f of I is an ideal. This last one is most important. Last one and third one. Okay, now this is an easiest one. Quickly we can calculate. R is an identity element. UR is an identity element in R. Then if you choose any element in R, any non-zero element in R, A into UR is equal to A, because UR is an identity element in R. Okay, that is with respect to multiplication. Identity element with respect to multiplication. So apply the homomorphism on both sides. Again apply the taking function on both sides. So apply the homomorphism f of A dot f of U are equal to f of A by cancellation. When you observe this, f of A into f of U is equal to f of A. Definitely f of U is a multiplicative identity in S. Okay. R is an unity, A is an unit element, then f of A is an unit element in S. So A is an unit element in R, therefore A into B is equal to UR. A belongs to R, direction B belongs to R. The product is nothing but identity element with respect to multiplication in R. So apply the function on both sides, apply the binary, apply the homomorphism on both sides. When you observe this, these two elements in S, when you apply the binary, that is nothing but an unit element in S. Okay, the previous result. So from this easily I can understood that f of A is an unit element in S. Consider f of A into f of A inverse, then f of A dot A inverse equal to f of UR. So f of A inverse is an inverse element of f of A. I consider this. Okay, finally I get my identity element with respect to multiplication. So when you get like this, definitely I can conclude that f of A inverse is nothing but f of A whole inverse. That is multiplicative inverse. R is commutative, then S is an commutative. So R is commutative means if you choose any element in R, A dot B is equal to B dot A. I want to show that S is an commutative. It is enough to show that if you choose two elements in S, just apply the binary f of A dot f of B equal to f of B dot f of A. I can consider f of A dot f of B. Apply the homomorphism. This is nothing but f of A dot B. A dot B. This is an element in R. In R is in commutative, so I can replace A dot B as B dot A. Okay. So again apply because R is in commutative. So again apply the homomorphism f of A dot f of B. Finally arrive at here. I have to put this symbol. So finally I show that f of A dot f of B is equal to f of B dot f of A. S is an commutative. This is another important proof now. Since I is a subring of R, then f of I is a subring of S. Okay. We have to prove that f of I is an ideal. So if because when you study the definition of ideal, every ideal is in subring, but every subring is not an ideal. So for proving is an subring, it is enough to prove that it's an ideal. If you show that f of I is an ideal in S, so obviously f of I is a subring of S. So what do you mean by ideal? So I want to say that f of I is an ideal in S. That means S is a ring, f of I is a subset of S. Okay. So how do you prove that a subset is an ideal? Choose any element in that ideal, choose any element in that ring, the product belongs to the ideal. Okay, the product belongs to an ideal. Okay, that is x belongs to f of I, s belongs to s, s dot x, this belongs to f of I. Definitely I can say that this is an ideal. Okay, so choose any element in your subset, say f of I, choose any element in the ring, say yes. So the element belongs to f of I means the form is f of I, because f of I is nothing but image of I. So definitely the x belongs to f of I means x is represented as image of some element in A. So s belongs to S, that is also is an image of some element in R. This is image of some element in I. This is image of some element in R. Keep in your mind. So just I apply the binary. Okay. So s dot x means s is nothing but f of r dot s, x is nothing but f of a. So we know that homomorphism, so I can write f of ra. With ra belongs to I, we know that I is an ideal, so r belongs to r, a belongs to I, so ra belongs to I. And we have, so s dot x is nothing but f of ra. It's conclude that f of s dot x belongs to f of I. Please listen, s dot x, which is equal to f of ra. Ra is belongs to I, so image of ra is definitely belongs to f of I. So yes, s dot x definitely belongs to f of I. See, an element belongs to f of I means which is equal to f of a. A is nothing but element of I. A is nothing but element of I. Definitely f of a is nothing but element of f of I. I have to show that f of I is an ideal. I know that A is an I, f of A belongs to f of I, but I don't know f of I is an ideal. So further I have to prove that f of I is an ideal. So choose two element, one element from ring, one element from your f of I. So finally I get f of ra, that means ra belongs to I. So f of ra belongs to f of I. So s dot x belongs to f of I. Finally we conclude that this is an ideal. Similarly we can prove that here s dot x is belongs to f of I, x dot s is belongs to f of I. So similarly we can prove that directly, you can write, no need to prove. So f of I is an ideal of S. That the proof is over. See, if you want to know, the proof is very clear, but it's a simple proof, even though you may have many doubts in the proof. So uh, when we understand clear, when we you can understand the proof of this theorem clearly with no doubts, that means the basic things you have to clear, that is all axioms in ring, axioms in group, axioms in field. So if you thorough this with these axioms, then the proof is very easy. ஓகே, ஸோ உனக்கு இந்த ஆக்ஷன்ஸ் எல்லாம் தரவா தெரிஞ்சுன்னா ப்ரூஃப் வந்து ஈஸி. இல்லைன்னா உனக்கு வந்து ப்ரூஃப் வந்து என்னவோ மாதிரி ப்ரூஃப் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி தான் உனக்கு தோணும். ஓகே ஓகே ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ், டு யூ ஹேவ் எனி டவுட்?
சார் தெரியுமா சார்?
எஸ் சார்.
சார் கொஞ்சம் அசைன்மெண்ட்